It's the 5th of March 2019. I'm David Griffin. I'm here at Stanton Cricket Club and I'm talking to
Richard Deeley,
Robert Allen,
Dave Alton.
Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for joining me, and I think the purpose of this interview is principally going to be to look at the touring side of Stanton Cricket Club. But before we do that, can we just go down the line, start with you, Richard, and just tell me a little bit about your cricketing background. Where did your cricket career start, and where have you played?
Yeah, I always liked to play cricket, and I used to play in the garden. The first competitive game was 1980 at school, and then just went on from there, played for some local clubs down in Devon. Then when I came up here, I played at university, and then when I got a job here, played for a local club, and then joined Stanton in 2001,
Right.
having actually played on their tour for a number of years before that,
Yeah,
and in some friendly games for them as well.
lovely. Robert?
I started playing probably in very late teens, early 20s, and I played for an Ilkeston club called Ilkeston Old Park, who are no longer in existence now, but they played on Gallows Inn, played on council pictures, and it was terrific. I had some fantastic times with them, but the time seemed right to move on, and I knew somebody at Stanton Badale, and it seemed to me quite a posh club because it had its own ground. And the thing that really attracted me to it was the fact that they played on a lot of village grounds, so that was it. And so I must have moved when I was in my mid to late 20s and never looked back. I've been there ever since.
Dave?
Well, I started playing junior cricket at Otbrook and Barwash because I was born and raised in Otbrook, so some of the old stalwarts of Otbrook and Barwash, Arthur Honeybun was running the...
One of the great names of
absolutely.
recreational cricket.
Absolutely, Arthur was. So I played junior cricket there. I, in my sort of school years, played at Ilkeston. So I played at Ilkeston Excelsior, again with some fabulous old cricketers. Trevor Harris and Arthur Harris, for folks that know them. We also played... Kenny Mee, absolutely. We played on Gallows Inn field, so our team played against Rob's team, so we played against each other. And then I married Sally, who you interviewed earlier, and 30 years ago we moved back into the village because she lived here, she was raised here. So we came here 30 years ago, bought a cottage and started playing for the club then, and I've been here, not that we live here now, but have played for the club since then.
Fascinating stuff, but the touring side of things interests me because we spoke to some guys on a previous interview and they talked about the tour going to the same area or the same place. And so can you, Robert, perhaps you're the person to start this one off with how did touring go? Because Richard, when he talked to us, said there was no chance of being able to do this sort of thing in the 50s when he was playing in the 60s. So how did the tour come about?
Well, the tour started before my time at the club, but my understanding is that the first tour was 1988, I think. Now, as part of getting ready for the evening, I'd emailed Andrew King, who is Doug King's son, and who lives in Norfolk now, so obviously couldn't come up. But he did say in his reply, "Tour's great, talk about tour." And Andrew, it was Andrew who was responsible for the initiation of the tour.
Right.
And he tells me that we had quite an affinity with Leicester Teachers, and we used to play friendlies against them. And I think the setup is that Leicester Teachers toured down in Cheltenham, so we got the names of some clubs that we might go to, and lo and behold, the tour was started. So 1988, that's where it came from. And I think from those days, Jim Keys, who is an absolute stalwart at the club, took it on and organised it. Then Norman Cowans, again a club stalwart, did a lot to keep the tour going. And for the last goodness knows how many years, Ben and Steph have absolutely owned the tour and made it their own, and they keep it going. They're wonderful. They keep a record, they keep a photographic record of the tour, and it's just a real integral part of the club. And that's how it came about. Really.
So what's this connection with with Cheltenham and the racecourse then?
Well, the connection came about just because I think, you know, it was the Cotswolds, nice to go down there, and they'd got the contact at some clubs down there to arrange it. The racecourse is, for those that know it, is the hotel on the racecourse, and it was cheap, so that's why we've always gone there. The rooms are cheap, you can double up, and it means that, you know, people are staying the week. It doesn't cost them a fortune. But the other thing is, because we've established a really good relationship over the 30-40 years now, people can stay for a night there and then leave. They do a cracking breakfast, and it's just been the scene of quite a lot of late night drinking as well, I think, over the years. So there's a real connection, and I think we're probably already booked in for this year.
So what's the process then of when you go on tour? Is it you go by coach, or is it cars? And how many games do you?
It'll be by car. It used to be Monday to Friday.
Yep.
The Friday game then got ditched on the basis that we got a Saturday league game and you needed to get back. So it then became Sunday to Thursday, though at times it's Monday to Thursday. Part of the time we play a game on the way down. So it's about an hour and a half, 2 hours to Cheltenham, but you might play a game sort of like in Worcestershire or so on the way down. We've done that.
Oftenham used to be the first game on the way down, because that was just south of Birmingham.
Right.
Yeah. So you would have that, and then you would then go down to the race course and then stay over the night and then go on for the next day and all that. Now, the clubs do change over time. There is one club, Breedon, that we have basically played since 1988.
Oh, that's great.
So there is that. There are others that we have played for a long time but no longer play with for whatever reasons they've folded or whatever. So Twinning is one. Elmley Castle is one that we started in 1994 and still playing there. Same with Charlton Kings. They joined us in about the mid 2000s and all that. Played at a place called Stanway, which is a very pretty ground, or was a pretty ground. It had undulating outfields, and it had a pavilion on stilts, which was on little mushroom stones.
J.M. Barry's ground, wasn't it?
Yes,
yes,
that is.
And
that's correct. And whilst we're talking about not having electricity or water, they didn't have electricity and water, and that was they stopped around the late 90s or so.
Why was the pavilion on stilts?
Just the way it's built. A lot of the architecture in the cottages are built on sort of mushroom things, aren't they?
Whimsical.
Stone mushrooms,
Right.
So it's a thatched pavilion built on mushrooms. Amazing that we actually got asked back, because the very first time we played there, one of our lads, it's very old, the whole place, and the tea was served out of an antique jug, and one of our lads broke the jug larking about. And Ben and Steph spent the next day touring antique markets to try and replace their jug.
Really?
But it's wonderful.
Interesting you mentioned the undulation, because Sandy Hook was like that, and it was to do with
was.
farmers' fields, wasn't it?
Yes, it would have been due to the furrows that they did in the Middle Ages and all that, and they were.
But they would literally, you would arrive for the game, and they would clear the sheep off it, wouldn't they?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, and it
Didn't
was
need
like,
a mower then.
Didn't need a mower. It was fantastic. And we
Dave.
played one game. We certainly played one game where they were short, and two of our lads played for them, and ended up beating us. So.
Dave, it must be a challenge both for the club to get people to go and play for the best part of a week's cricket away, and also for the clubs that are hosting you. So how do you overcome that or meet that challenge?
I think, in fairness to the people that do the organising, they do a fabulous job. There's a lot of mixing and matching, so quite often people will go down for a couple of days, stay one night, and do it that way. There are relatively few people now that make the whole week. It used to be perhaps a bit more when the tour started, that people would go for 4 or 5 days. So it is mixing and matching. I think it's been mentioned earlier. We do get some guest players, and we probably struggle without those guest players now. And the clubs are really good in terms of putting out midweek sides, because they do have to sort of, I don't know about scratch around, but they do, pull in some favours at times to I don't think we've ever actually really had fixtures lost on the day because they've not been able to fill the time. But as you say, if there's some element of having to lend a player or two, And we do play them competitively, but having said that, it's in the right spirit.
Yes.
So I think that people value that when we go down, and we always make a point of presenting them afterwards with something, and you know, have a man of the match and a champagne moment and that kind of thing. So I think that the spirit of it stands us in good stead, and so teams that we play on tour, we know have lost other kind of touring sides, but have tended to maintain those, and I think that's a lot to do with the way that we've approached it over the years.
Any either on your side or you've come up against any ringers, anybody that sort of come in and somebody tells you he's the village bobby or the local farmer and it turns out to be a test cricketer or anything like that?
I don't think the ringers, but Breeden, who said he's always played, have always tended to have a professional.
Yes.
Now, what was the spinner from West Indies that played for them one time?
Oh, I do remember that. No, I can't remember that, but yes, he played against us, and yes, they do. Having been beaten by us, let's say 3 seasons in a row, they were getting. They wanted to not lose another game.
Right.
So yeah, they had some good players for a year.
We played.
And so that was interesting. Yes, and they did win.
We play a team called Appley as well, which
Yeah.
we've done on the way down, and they're very, very strong. And from time to time, they've put a first team player out, and it's been, you know, you've been jumping about a bit, haven't you? Really, just.
The thing is, the standard. Everyone
Yeah.
says the same thing. That the standard, each level you go up in sport, you don't realise until you get to play at that level. You suddenly play against a proper quick bowler or a proper spinner, and it's a different world to the one that you.
Oh, yes,
Having said that,
definitely.
Having said that, even where that's been the case, the games have been played in a really good spirit, and you know it's been terrific. And we've got quite a close relationship with a team down in Cambridge, because Jim Keys is down there, and he always brings a couple of players, and they have their own pro down there who's joined us on a couple of occasions. And one of the really nice things, I mean, as Dave says, there aren't many people that go all week now for, you know, because of work or whatever. But I know when I've been down for 1 or 2 days, the really nice thing is you meet people that you didn't see since last year's tour from there, and it's really nice to see them again. And it just kind of gels like that. That's one of the beauties of it. My recollection, I must be wrong, my recollection is the sun always shines on tour. I'm sure it doesn't. But
Well,
always
it
seems
did
to.
for about 15 years. Basically, I think up to about 2006, we didn't lose a game to the weather. We might have lost 1 or 2.
That's great.
Then the weather changed, if you may remember, from 2007 onwards. And I think it was that year that we actually got washed out. Or
So what did
something
you do
with
then?
the floods.
What did you have to do
With the floods.
when it was washed out? Then what did you find to do in Cheltenham?
It was, golf was
Play golf.
there was a bit of golf played.
10-pin bowling. Yeah, that sort of thing.
Anything involving alcohol?
Not excessively.
Very sensitive.
No, it's not a sort of boozy tour. It's sort of like it's played in a good spirit, and we go out and socialise, but it's not you wouldn't get any sort of massive tales of massive booze ups and
Not on
issues
film,
like that.
anyway.
No, on film, no, but
Yeah, you asked earlier about how we got down there. We've never been in coach, but we do.
No.
And now people tend to make their own way and so on.
Yeah.
But we did used to have a bit of a convoy. We used to meet in the village
Yeah.
and have a convoy. We did manage to lose somebody between the village here and the M1, which is about 1.5 miles. And
There's only one road between here and them.
well, we know that. But
Was he not local then?
no, he was local and he played for the club. But he turned up, and it was the first game at Offenham. He turned up halfway through the innings, and we never did find out where he'd been. But we lost him between here and the M1.
well, we did have that issue at Offenham. I don't know whether you've played, but well, it was 1994. We went down, and we looked round. There wasn't anybody there, and we sort of looked at it, and sort of then looked at the pitch and sort of went, "This hasn't been prepared." And actually, they'd folded in the closed season.
Oh,
So
nobody let you know.
nobody let us know, and so therefore we were there. And well, there wasn't a game that day due to that, but that was interesting. So we just went on down to the racecourse and then had our meal out that night. So that was.
Any other
interesting.
calamities?
The first year I went down, we ended up playing at I don't know if it's the first game there, but we played at a ground called Elmley Castle, which is just beautiful, really lovely ground. but I don't know how it happened, but they must have had a dodgy meal the night before because when we got to the ground,
No, the actual thing is that
they were dropping like flies.
Someone brought a stomach bug with them. It was a gastro bug, and it basically just passed around. It
in your team or
in our team?
In our team,
So it wasn't a food issue. It was sort of like someone had a gastro bug, and it just passed around the team. And yeah, at Elmley were dropping like flies and going into their pavilion,
So
sort of like subbing fielders and stuff like
and
that.
half of them were lying in our pavilion, and even for days afterwards, we struggled to get a side. When we came home, we struggled to get a side out on the Saturday because half the side was still under the weather.
Never tracked it down then, the culprit.
Of course, he only plays at Alton because he makes a shed full of runs there every time.
Well, we did, yeah, and you and I put on 170 there, so it's a favourite. Everybody has favourite grounds, don't they? And
What are, of all of you, you could pick one ground, all three of you, question to all three of you, one ground that you tour to that you'd want to play on again or you'd go back to?
Well, I suppose everybody's waiting for me to say, aren't they, really? Because
Yes.
Elmley would be mine, and I'd just have it everywhere because the story goes, and it is written down somewhere that the story goes is I made some runs at Elmley
100.
my first tour week, and so to celebrate we went out for a meal because Nina was down there, and we lost our car keys. And so we couldn't get back, and everybody else had buggered off and left us, and we were stuck in the middle of nowhere, and we had to get a taxi back to the hotel. The bloke drove like the clappers, scared me to death, but we had the most memorable day. It was absolutely fantastic, and my daughter was born 9 months later the next year, so we must have celebrated in some style.
Well, that's a first for this project.
Well, there you are, you see. So I might as well tell you that before anybody else does, because somebody will get that in. So Elmley is absolutely beautiful. It's a lovely ground, and we always make runs there, don't we?
Dave, concur?
It is a glorious place to play. I personally would love to play at Stanway again.
Stanway's
because I just think it's magical. It's like nowhere I've ever seen for playing cricket with the because it's in the sort of like the grounds of a kind of stately hall and this thatched pavilion and so on. I mean, it is just something out of this world, isn't it?
Yeah.
Richard?
Well, I'd have to go for Elmley. It's very pitchy.
Do you score runs there as well?
I've scored some runs there and taken some wickets. So,
Lose your keys there?
No, I haven't lost my keys there.
Any children can see
No,
there?
none there.
It's quite boring.
Yeah, not as exciting as that. You know, nice pub at the top of the ground and all that, where you can go for a drink afterwards. Yes, it's a lovely place at the moment.
And are you still partaking of the tour? Are you still active tourists?
I'm not, but
Right.
you two are, aren't you?
Yeah, very occasional. Like most people, it tends to be, I guess, less frequent as you get more senior. But yeah, we're still
Silly
trying.
good.
Yeah,
Well-
we had a lot of people. The tour was quite popular a few years ago, so even in the late 90s, we actually managed to get 2 teams out in one day.
Really?
Because we had sufficient players who were interested.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen these days, and as we've said, we do rely on guests, particularly Jim Keys, who was a member of our club but moved to Cambridgeshire, and he brings a few players from his club there, which helps the numbers, but means that it can still go on and still keep the tradition going, for ourselves and also the clubs down there who I think enjoy playing us.
Dead right. Yeah.
Well,
I think the thing is now you'd like to go down all week, but you find that you can't turn out more than 2 days running. So that's as much as you can get down there for, really. Although interesting, I mean the other thing that and it shows how you develop friendships, because it was our 150th year last year. We found there was a club down in the Cotswolds, Grittleton, who was also celebrating their 150th.
Oh, perfect.
And we kicked the tour off with a game against them.
Lovely.
So, and that we're hoping they'll come back up here this year, and we'll keep it going.
Well, gentlemen, it's been fascinating hearing your touring reminiscences. For now, thank you very much indeed.